at the Free People Show in about 2 minutes. Burger House 41 is open at 1860 West Mason Street in Green Bay. You're invited to indulge in one of the life's simplest pleasures, a great burger. They're grilling up 15 fresh signature burgers and have over 30 craft beers for the perfect pairing. Experience Wisconsin's best flavors, including white cheddar cheese curds, a variety of specialty sandwiches, milkshakes, and gourmet frozen custard. Burger House 41 at 1860 West Mason is open at 11 a.m. daily. Taste Wisconsin. Taste amazing.
Would you like to experience being one of the free people who produce their own meat and eggs? Not you personally, but your poultry, actually. PurelyPoultry.com has the chicken and supplies you need to raise poultry. Seriously, Purely Poultry is not some sort of mad scientist thing where they can have producing human meat and laying eggs. No, it's a different thing. Would you like pets who produce eggs? Pets. I said pets. Pets who produce eggs you can barter with. A swan on your pond to make your home more attractive. How about some pheasants and quail in your woods? As Tyler likes to do, to shoot or enjoy. If so, check out PurelyPoultry.com.
6%? 7%? That's a lot of money. I might as well just do it myself. Well, that might be true, if a lot of that money you're paying a real estate broker is going toward outdated methods, unnecessary fancy offices, and overpaying executives for a lifetime of service. But you don't need to go that route. Silver Compass Realty is a full-service real estate brokerage serving all of South Central Wisconsin, and the commission is negotiable. Silver Compass will explain exactly what they're going to do to help you buy or sell a home, how that will help you reach your goals, and stand right beside you every step of the way. They want to be your broker, your expert, even when you're not in the middle of a transaction. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home. Contact them today at silvercompassrealty.com or call 608-361-8608. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home. And we're back. The Free People Show, episode 34 at freepeopleshow.com, on Facebook, Twitter, TuneIn, all those things, and our host platform, Spreaker. Talking about the internet, the government, and free speech. And if you've been listening for the first half hour, you know that Patrick and I have some different feelings about it, which is good. This is part of what we do on this show, is to twist the issues around. And I'll say, in response to what Patrick was saying before the break, I said from the beginning, it's a difficult thing, and we got to look at it both ways. No matter what we do, there's danger from the upset, violent, virulent left. Certainly, I don't think there's a really good answer. I mean, there's some ideal answers, of course, but what we do now, I think, depends on people of good faith and candidates running for office, making commitments to free speech for all, and being elected and carrying out those policies. That would be the most ideal situation. But as promised, before we went to break, Ron's going to tell us how he feels about free speech and the internet.
Oh, man.
Lay it on us, Ron.
Yeah, so, I mean, I have no issues with anyone saying whatever they want over the internet. You know, provided it doesn't cause any immediate danger or threat or harm to anyone. I have no issues with anyone saying whatever they want. At the same token, I have no issues with any service company who provides internet services restricting whatever they want over the internet, or providing or taking away whatever they want over the internet. You know, if you're saying things that they don't agree with, if they want to take it away, it's up to them. They're providing the service, as long as it doesn't break any contractual agreements. They can do what they want. It's their
What do you
service.
suppose would happen, though, if they decided to shut down all the Black Lives Matter websites?
Ooh. What would happen? The Black Lives Matters.
They'd freak out.
Protesters would build their own internet service provider.
No, they wouldn't.
Yes, they
No,
would.
they
They would. Absolutely,
The government would swoop in a heartbeat.
Well, that's what would happen.
Yes.
Patrick's talking about what would happen.
Yeah.
Ron's talking about what should happen.
What
might happen.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, the government would swoop in, and it would be this whole racial argument and all this stuff, and they would correct or supposedly correct what is supposedly wrong. But what would really happen is there'd be, a few Black Lives Matters protesters who would develop their own internet service providing company to other BLM protesters, and they would develop their own internet service providing company, and they would be able to project that still on a free market. So I don't
agree.
see any issues with that.
Yeah, I agree with you that that's what should happen, what could happen. It sounds a little faithful in the sense that we would hope that would happen, or that it might have happened already. But we have to remember that in times of persecution before, when populations have been marginalized, that's generally what they do, is they form their own communities and eventually come in contact with, unless they're actually killed off. I mean, that's a different story. But even our culture in America is largely defined by African American culture. True American culture is very informed by African American culture, which was born through suffering and slavery. Usually, the best cultures in the world, the most beautiful cultures, have some struggle and some bondage involved in them, and that's not to say that that's a good idea or a good outcome.
I really don't want to go into bondage.
No,
it's okay with you. I really don't want to suffer.
That's not what I'm
suffer
saying.
proudly and beautifully. I really don't want to go there.
My point is that historically there's a response to that. It's hard, but in the end, one of the things, as Ron was talking, another sort of point is, what do we have a right to? And it came up today as I was talking to Professor Joe Daniels about an understanding of rights, and that is that people have lost the understanding that a right is something that you have, but not something that you can force somebody else to give you. So this idea that people have a right to health care is preposterous, or a right to education. That's not a right. That's maybe a need. That's maybe something that they feel like the community should help them fulfill. But it's not a right, because no right, by definition, can incur an obligation on somebody else. So when it comes down to internet and free speech, that's kind of the crux of the problem. We have a right to free speech, and there's an opposing right.
No, we don't. We don't have a right to free speech on the internet.
No, I'm not saying that. I didn't say on the internet.
I think that's the point he's making.
The other point is that there's property rights involved with people that own businesses, and they collide because there's not another space. But there's not a public. There's a public square, but people don't go to the square in Madison to have discussions anymore.
And this is
they have it online.
And this is where I think some libertarians get the concept of rights wrong, is that they think all rights are equivalent, that property rights and free speech rights are equivalent. They are not. Political rights are preeminent. In other words, the religious freedom and freedom of assembly and freedom of speech are preeminent. They're more vital and more important than property rights. So if there's
I disagree with you.
I think that there is a difference. Not that I'm a robust defender of property rights.
Understood.
But whenever there's a conflict between two rights, and sometimes there can be a conflict between religious liberty and bake the cake. That's one where you've got two different rights colliding, and I take the stand that, because religious freedom is a preeminent right.
But that's only a public religious freedom. So once it travels into a private business, then it no longer holds, right?
But no, it doesn't. In my opinion, it doesn't.
Right.
Because what you're saying then, you get this. This is the same sort of thing that's happening with speech. Has been happening with religious freedom as well, where people say, well, you have a right to free speech, or you have a right to religious freedom, and they say you can go ahead and exercise your religion as much as you want to, as long as you don't do it around me, as long as you don't do it out in public, as long as you don't do it in the schools.
Yeah, there's no right to freedom from religion. That's false. I agree with you.
There's this long list of restrictions that people want to put on people's religious practices, and as an absolutist on it, I'm like, no. You should be as free as possible to exercise your religious values publicly,
right.
and in your business or whatever.
Yes,
and the same holds true for speech. So this idea that somehow this is where we get libertarians saying that it's okay for private business owners to put a sign in their window that says "No blacks allowed." That's the kind of stupid arguments that we get on the libertarian side when people equate property rights and free speech rights or other rights as being utterly equivalent in all cases.
So
And they're really not.
Go back to the sign in the window.
What they're saying is property rights are more important than these other rights, which I think is completely backwards.
There's certain rights that are private that belong to the person, and certain rights that are in the Constitution as being elements of what you have the right to do publicly.
Well, technically, the First Amendment of the Constitution says that the government may not interfere with religion.
No establishment of religion.
Establishment of religion, which doesn't necessarily guarantee on its face that some other property rights can collide with that.
It says the prohibition thereof as well. I think so. But the government that's public space. That's a public right.
But there is constitutional law that does say that there is a difference between political speech, which is the highest level of protected speech. That's why it's virtually impossible to sue a politician for libel, because the Supreme Court has said you literally have to prove almost an impossibility to win a libel case against when you're dealing with a politician.
Well, that's good to know.
It is.
Yeah.
Somebody can lie like hell about you, the most awful kind of lie, and it's virtually impossible to win a libel suit. And there's a reason for that. It's because the Supreme Court has said that form of speech is more sacred than all other forms of speech. So the right of an artist to make a sculpture is not as protected as the right of people to discuss politics. And what were the people in Charlottesville who did the rally? What were they doing? That was political speech. Mm-hmm. Whether you like it or not, they were talking about power. They were talking about they wanted to have a different kind of a country than we have now. They wanted to change things. That's political speech.
And they were well within their rights to do so.
They should have had the highest levels of protection for that speech. So, the point I'm making here is this idea that somehow property rights, an argument in favor of property rights, it allows people to effectively lose their freedom of speech. That's something that we got to work on as libertarians.
I don't think they collide, because the freedom of speech stops at the doorway to somebody's house or somebody's business. Because then now you're on their property. So the Constitution says that the government, in their public space, that's what they regulate. But they don't regulate individual speech within their family, within their business. That's certainly not the intent of the Constitution. Yeah. So in your example, which is a very difficult one for, it's pretty extreme, no blacks allowed. I mean, that was the case in the United States for a long time.
I've heard libertarians make that argument that business owners should be allowed to do that.
I agree with that.
Is there a property right? You agree that they should be allowed to do that?
I agree.
I would agree with it too.
Phil.
And I know that's the sort of thing that might get called a Nazi, but people can choose then, and a lot of people even in the LGBTQ community, as well as people of color, would rather know who the bigots are than have it be hidden.
Well, yeah,
I mean that's been a lot of people published on that.
That's the sort of thinking that's going to get us on the bad people list.
Well, I understand it's controversial. Thank God we don't really have to address that. But the cake baking, I mean, look, there's so many. I mean, you're talking about the left, right? And the things that they support and the things that they don't support.
They're insane.
What about a Muslim baker who doesn't want to make a cake for a gay couple?
They'll make an exception because they're not rational. They have no rational basis for their.
But we as libertarians have a rational basis. And now I understand
But sometimes you can go to the point of being so rational that you're stupid. When you start saying
that it's impractical.
You're okay with
it's so rational.
You're
saying that we can be so practical, so principled as to be inconvenient, and I'm willing to go there. I think we have to be. There's a lot of things that we have to be inconvenient for, if necessary. And we have to be rational. We have to be the adult in the room. Otherwise, we fall into the same thing. Otherwise, we're just another brand of left or right or whatever. What do you think, Ron?
I think one thing we should point out is, yes, we allow those things as libertarians, we say, okay, it's your right as a person to say no blacks allowed in your store. Do we agree with that? Absolutely not. I think most libertarians would say, no, that's not something we agree with, because we believe in individual rights and the right of, each person being a free person. So it's not something that we agree with, but we agree with the right of people to be free and to speak their minds. So, it's conflict, but it's not conflict. It's, that's where the free market and economics kind of plays into if you don't want to shop there, then you shop somewhere else, and as a business.
I agree with you, and I think one